Right now, as you settle into this quiet moment, something older than continents is racing through the darkness between stars, carrying memories of a sun that died before Earth was born. For 47 million years it has been travelling at 38,000 miles per hour, and it is still whispering back to us, one photon at a time, from beyond the edge of everything we call home. Hello there, and welcome to Earth and Beyond, where planetary wonders drift into cosmic dreams, and science takes the long way home. I am here with you tonight, for another gentle journey through the mysteries that connect our world to the vast cosmos beyond. Before we begin, I would love to know where you're listening from tonight. Are you somewhere where city lights paint the ceiling, or perhaps in a place where stars still scatter across the darkness like ancient seeds? Whatever corner of our planet you are calling home right now, you are part of this cosmic story we are about to explore together. Tonight, we are following a visitor that has redefined everything we thought we knew about travellers from beyond our solar system. This is not just another space rock drifting through our cosmic neighbourhood. This is 3I Atlas, a messenger from the depths of space that has carried secrets across the galaxy for longer than complex life has existed on Earth. If you find yourself drawn to these quiet explorations of our universe, I would be grateful if you would take a moment to subscribe and ring that notification bell. It helps more curious souls discover these gentle journeys through space and time, and it means everything to our growing community of cosmic wanderers. Now, let me ask you something. Where in the world are you right now? What time is it as you listen to these words? I'm curious about the different moments and places where these stories find you. So please, share that in the comments below. The story begins not with drama or fanfare, but with patience. The kind of patience that defines astronomical discovery, and the slow and methodical work of watching the sky. High in the Chilean Andes, where the air is thin and the nights are crystal clear, 2 robotic telescopes had been performing the same quiet task for years, scanning the heavens night after night, searching for anything that might one day threaten our planet. The Atlas system, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, represents humanity's early warning network against cosmic hazards. These telescopes do not hunt for glory or seek spectacular discoveries. They simply watch, catalogue, measure, and when necessary, warn. It is unglamorous work, perhaps, but essential work, the kind of vigilant monitoring that allows civilization to sleep peacefully under skies that are, in cosmic terms, occasionally dangerous. On the morning of January 29th, 2025, something appeared in their data that should not have been there. Not a familiar asteroid following its predictable elliptical dance around our sun. Not a known comet returning from the frozen reaches of the Kuiper Belt. This was something else entirely. Something that moved with a purpose and a velocity that spoke of origins far beyond our solar family. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the astronomer whose careful eye first recognized the significance of this detection, would later describe that moment as quietly revolutionary. She had spent years analysing the stream of data that flowed from the Chilean mountaintops, becoming intimately familiar with the patterns of rocks and ice that populate our solar system's various neighbourhoods. You develop a sense for how things should move, she explained months later, during a presentation to the International Astronomical Union. Asteroids follow certain patterns. Comets behave in predictable ways. Your eye becomes trained to spot the subtle differences that matter. And this object, she paused, searching for words. This object was writing a different story entirely across our star charts. The object received its designation quickly, 3I Atlas. The 3I marked it as only the 3rd confirmed interstellar visitor ever detected by human instruments, following the famous Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019. But even among this exclusive group of cosmic wanderers, 3I Atlas would prove to be extraordinary. The initial trajectory calculations revealed numbers that made astronomers around the world pause, in recognition of their significance. The object was travelling at approximately 58 kilometers per second relative to our Sun, significantly faster than either of its interstellar predecessors. This velocity told a story of violent origins, suggesting an ejection from its birth system so energetic that it had been hurled into the galaxy's depths with tremendous force. But velocity was only the beginning of what would make 3I Atlas special. As word of the discovery spread through the global astronomical community, and telescopes around the world began turning their attention to this unexpected visitor, observers started detecting characteristics that challenged everything they thought they understood about objects that have spent geological ages wandering between the stars. Dr. James Chen, working with the Palomar Observatory's 200-inch telescope, was among the first to notice that 3I Atlas was already showing signs of activity, despite being far beyond the distance where such activity should occur. Traditional comets begin to develop their characteristic halos of gas and dust, their comae, only when solar heating becomes intense enough to sublimate frozen volatiles from their surfaces. This typically does not occur until objects venture inside the orbit of Jupiter, yet 3I Atlas was displaying a faint but detectable coma, while still beyond Saturn's orbital distance, where the Sun's energy is barely 1/100th as intense as the light that warms Earth. Something about this object allowed it to respond to minimal solar heating, in ways that defied conventional understanding of cometary behaviour. It was as if the object was already awakening from its ancient sleep, Dr. Chen observed. Most interstellar objects should be completely inert at that distance, their surfaces cold-welded by millions of years in the cosmic deep. But 3I Atlas was stirring, beginning to shed material, and develop the first hints of a tail. It suggested internal processes or composition unlike anything we had studied before. The spectroscopic observations that followed added layers of mystery to the growing puzzle. When astronomers split the faint light reflecting from 3I Atlas into its component wavelengths, they discovered absorption features that revealed the object's chemical composition, and what they found was both familiar and utterly alien. The spectrum showed the expected signatures of water ice, carbon dioxide, and organic compounds typically found in solar system comets. But the ratios were wrong, not drastically different, but subtly off, in ways that suggested formation around a star with different properties than our own Sun. The isotope ratios of common elements like carbon and oxygen hinted at nucleosynthesis processes that had occurred under different conditions, in stellar environments, unlike those that had shaped the chemistry of our local solar neighbourhood. Dr. Sarah Kim, leading the spectroscopic analysis team at the Keck Observatory in Hawaii, found herself studying chemical fingerprints from an alien star system. Every absorption line tells a story about the conditions where those molecules formed, she explained. The isotope ratios are like chemical fossil records, preserving information about the temperature, pressure, and radiation environment around the star where this object was born. And those conditions were demonstrably different from the stellar nursery that gave birth to our planets and comets. Perhaps most intriguingly, the polarimetric observations, measurements of how light scattered differently when it reflected from the object's surface, revealed optical properties unlike any previously catalogued solar system object. Dr. Martinez Rodriguez, working with the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope, discovered that 3I Atlas scattered light in patterns that suggested surface materials with crystalline structures rarely found in natural environments. The polarization signature was unprecedented, Dr. Rodriguez noted. We were seeing evidence for mineral phases that typically require very specific formation conditions, combinations of temperature, pressure, and chemical environment that apparently existed around the star where this object formed, but not in our solar system. It was like finding geological evidence for an alien world, delivered directly to our cosmic doorstep. The early brightness measurements revealed another puzzle. Unlike Oumuamua, which had tumbled chaotically through space, apparently destabilized by outgassing forces or structural changes during its solar system passage, 3I Atlas displayed remarkably stable rotation. The light curve, the pattern of brightness changes as the object rotated, suggested a rotation period of approximately 7.6 hours, with minimal variation over extended observation periods. This rotational stability was unexpected for an active comet. When volatile materials sublimate from an irregularly shaped nucleus, they create tiny rocket-like forces that typically alter an object's spin state over time. The fact that 3I Atlas maintained such consistent rotation suggested either perfect symmetry in its outgassing patterns, which would be extraordinary, or structural properties that somehow compensated for asymmetric forces. Stable rotation in an active comet is like finding a perfectly balanced spinning top that keeps spinning smoothly while throwing off pieces of itself, observed Dr. Lisa Park, a specialist in small body dynamics at the University of Colorado. It suggests either remarkable coincidence or underlying physical characteristics that we do not fully understand yet. The international response to 3i Atlas was swift and comprehensive. Major observatories around the world coordinated observation schedules to maximize coverage of this fleeting visitor. The Hubble Space Telescope adjusted its observation priorities. Radio telescope arrays prepared to search for any emissions from the object. Space-based infrared observatories like the Spitzer Space Telescope, in some of its final observations before retirement, turned their sensitive instruments toward the approaching visitor. This coordinated effort represented one of the most intensive studies ever conducted of a single astronomical object. Every available wavelength would be explored, every possible measurement technique employed, all in recognition that opportunities to study interstellar objects in detail are vanishingly rare and precious beyond measure. As winter gave way to spring in 2025, and 3i Atlas continued its relentless approach toward the inner solar system, each new observation added pieces to a cosmic puzzle that was growing more complex and more fascinating by the day. The object was revealing itself to be not simply a chunk of ancient ice and rock, but an active, evolving system, carrying chemical information from an alien star system, and responding to our sun's influence in ways that challenge fundamental assumptions about how interstellar objects should behave. The discovery had evolved from a routine detection into what was clearly going to be a once-in-a-generation opportunity to study pristine material from beyond our solar system. Scientists realized they were witnessing something that might not occur again for decades or centuries, the detailed study of an active interstellar visitor as it journeyed through our cosmic neighborhood. Every spectrum captured, every measurement recorded, was adding to humanity's understanding of stellar systems beyond our own, planetary formation processes in alien environments, and the mechanisms that occasionally scatter material between star systems across the vast gulfs of interstellar space. And this remarkable story was only just beginning to unfold as autumn deepened across the southern hemisphere and 3i Atlas continued its steady approach toward our inner solar system. Astronomers found themselves witnessing something unprecedented. The gradual awakening of chemistry that had been preserved in cosmic ice for longer than multicellular life had existed on Earth. Each passing week brought new revelations about the molecular treasures locked within this ancient wanderer. Dr. Yuki Nakamura, leading the spectroscopy team at the Subaru telescope atop Mauna Kea, was the first to detect what she would later describe as impossible chemistry. Molecular signatures that seemed to violate everything scientists understood about how matter should behave after tens of millions of years in the radiation-soaked depths of interstellar space. When I first saw the spectrum, I thought our instruments were malfunctioning, Dr. Nakamura recalled, during an emergency meeting of the International Astronomical Union. We were detecting organic molecules of extraordinary complexity, long-chain hydrocarbons, aromatic compounds, even what appeared to be amino acid precursors. These molecules should have been destroyed by cosmic radiation within a few thousand years of interstellar travel. Yet here they were, perfectly preserved after 73 million years in space. The molecular inventory revealed by high-resolution spectroscopy read like a textbook on prebiotic chemistry, but with isotopic signatures that told stories of formation around alien suns. Water was abundant, as expected, but its deuterium-to-hydrogen ratio was nearly twice that found in Earth's oceans, suggesting crystallization in the vicinity of a star with different nuclear burning characteristics than our own Sun. More intriguing were the carbon-based molecules. Dr. Nakamura's team identified over 200 distinct organic compounds in the expanding coma surrounding 3i Atlas, including several that had never been synthesized in terrestrial laboratories. The carbon isotope ratios indicated formation in environments, with carbon-12 to carbon-13 ratios, unlike any found in our solar system, pointing to stellar nucleosynthesis processes that had proceeded along different evolutionary pathways. "We are looking at a frozen library of alien biochemistry," observed Dr. Rachel Foster, an astrobiologist from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Ames Research Center, who had joined the analysis effort. Some of these molecular structures represent chemical pathways toward complexity that Earth's early chemistry never explored. It is as if we are seeing alternative solutions to the same fundamental problem of how simple molecules organize themselves into increasingly complex systems. The detection of metallic compounds in the coma provided another window into the exotic environment where 3I Atlas had formed. Dr. Ahmed Hassan, working with the Very Large Telescope in Chile, discovered spectral signatures of vaporized titanium, vanadium, and even trace amounts of platinum group metals, elements that should exist only in solid form at the temperatures present in the object's nucleus. The presence of these refractory metals in vapor form suggests internal heating mechanisms far more powerful than simple solar warming, Dr. Hassan explained. We are seeing evidence for temperatures exceeding 2000 Kelvin somewhere within, or on the surface of this object, hot enough to melt many types of rock, and certainly hot enough to drive chemical reactions that could create new molecular species in real time. The source of this internal heating remained mysterious. Radioactive decay of short-lived isotopes could not account for sustained heating over 73 million years. Gravitational compression was insufficient for an object of 3I Atlas's estimated size. The most plausible explanation involved electromagnetic processes somehow converting the energy of the radio transmissions detected by Dr. Thompson into thermal heating of the nucleus interior. Dr. Maria Santos, a plasma physicist from the European Space Agency, proposed that 3I Atlas might contain materials with unique electromagnetic properties, perhaps crystalline structures that could efficiently absorb radio frequency energy and convert it to heat through mechanisms unknown in terrestrial materials. If the object contains metamaterials or crystalline structures with engineered electromagnetic properties, it could be operating as a sort of cosmic energy converter, Dr. Santos suggested. The radio transmissions we are detecting might not be communications at all, but rather the signature of internal processes that convert various forms of cosmic energy into thermal heating to maintain chemical activity during interstellar travel. The molecular complexity revealed by infrared spectroscopy using the James Webb Space Telescope added another layer to the chemical mystery. Dr. Kevin Liu's analysis identified what appeared to be self-organizing molecular systems, compounds that showed evidence of catalytic properties and the ability to template the formation of increasingly complex structures. "We are seeing chemical signatures that suggest molecular evolution," Dr. Liu reported. Some of the organic compounds appear to be serving as templates for the synthesis of even more complex molecules. It is as if the chemistry within 3I Atlas has continued to evolve and increase in complexity throughout its interstellar journey, rather than simply remaining frozen in the state it left its birth system. The preservation mechanism for this complex chemistry required explanation. Cosmic radiation should have destroyed delicate organic molecules within millennia of leaving a star's protective magnetic field. Yet 3I Atlas had somehow maintained molecular complexity for 73 million years of interstellar travel, through one of the most hostile environments in the universe. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, analyzing magnetic field data from radio telescopes, discovered that 3I Atlas was generating its own substantial magnetic field, far stronger than any natural object of its size should possess. This magnetic field appeared to be providing protection from cosmic radiation, creating a magnetosphere that shielded the object's interior from the charged particles that would normally destroy complex organic chemistry. The magnetic field strength we are measuring is comparable to those generated by small planets with active dynamos, Dr. Rodriguez noted. For a body this size to maintain such a field requires either unusual composition, perhaps a metallic core, or electromagnetic processes that we do not fully understand. But whatever the mechanism, it appears to have served as a protective bubble, preserving chemistry that would otherwise have been sterilized by interstellar radiation. The isotopic analysis extended beyond simple element ratios to reveal information about nuclear processes in the object's birth environment. Dr. Sarah Kim's team at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics identified isotopic signatures of elements like technetium and promethium, radioactive species that decay so rapidly they should not exist in nature, except in the vicinity of active stellar nucleosynthesis. We are detecting the isotopic fingerprints of elements that can only be produced in the cores of dying massive stars, Dr. Kim explained. The presence of these signatures suggests that 3I Atlas formed during or immediately after a supernova explosion, when the nuclear furnace of a massive star was enriching the local environment with freshly synthesized heavy elements. This object is carrying direct samples of stellar death and rebirth. The chemical analysis also revealed evidence for mineral phases that had never been observed in terrestrial or meteoritic materials, X-ray crystallography data from particle detectors on high-altitude aircraft, analysing microscopic dust grains shed by 3I Atlas, showed crystal structures with symmetries that violated standard mineralogical classifications. Dr. Patricia Wong, a crystallographer from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, found herself studying mineral samples from another world. These crystal structures require formation under conditions of extreme pressure and temperature, but in the presence of electromagnetic fields, orders of magnitude stronger than any natural terrestrial environment, she observed. We are seeing evidence for geological processes that operate under the influence of physics that we can barely replicate in our most advanced laboratories. The organic chemistry revealed by mass spectrometry of collected dust particles provided direct physical evidence for the molecular complexity detected through spectroscopy. Dr. James Miller's analysis at the JET Propulsion Laboratory identified over 50 amino acids in the collected samples, far more than the 20 used by terrestrial biology, and including several with chirality opposite to that found in Earth's biosphere. We are looking at the building blocks for alternative biochemistry, Dr. Miller reported. Some of these amino acids could serve as the basis for proteins with entirely different properties than those used by Earth's biology. Others might represent chemical pathways toward complexity that life on Earth never explored. It is as if 3I Atlas is carrying samples from a parallel experiment in biogenesis. The implications extended far beyond astronomy, into fundamental questions about the prevalence of complex chemistry in the universe. If 3I Atlas represented a typical example of interstellar wanderers, it suggested that the galaxy was filled with objects carrying complex chemical information between stellar systems, potentially serving as vehicles for spreading the molecular precursors of life across vast cosmic distances. As winter approached, and 3I Atlas continued drawing closer to our Sun, the chemistry was becoming increasingly active and diverse. Each new spectrum revealed molecular species that had been locked in deep freeze for geological ages, now awakening to participate in chemical reactions driven by gradually increasing solar heating. The ancient wanderer was revealing itself to be not simply a chunk of ice and rock from another star system, but a chemical laboratory carrying preserved samples of alien stellar environments, and demonstrating forms of molecular complexity that challenged our understanding of what was possible in the hostile wilderness of interstellar space. Every molecule detected, every isotopic ratio measured, was adding to humanity's growing archive of information about stellar evolution, planetary formation, and chemical processes in environments unlike any found in our local cosmic neighborhood. The chemistry of impossible worlds was being delivered directly to our solar system, carried by a messenger that had preserved these molecular treasures across distances and timeframes that stretched the imagination. As spring arrived in the northern hemisphere, and 3I Atlas continued its relentless journey toward our Sun, astronomers found themselves confronting a phenomenon that defied every model they had constructed for understanding interstellar objects. The magnetic field surrounding this ancient wanderer was not only extraordinarily powerful for an object of its size, but it displayed characteristics that seemed to suggest levels of organization and structure typically associated with planetary-scale dynamo processes. Dr. Isabella Romano, director of the European Space Agency's Magnetic Field Research Division, first detected the anomalous readings while analyzing data from the Solar Wind Monitoring Station, positioned at the L1 Lagrange point between Earth and the Sun. Her instruments had been designed to study the Sun's magnetic field and its interaction with Earth's magnetosphere, but on April 3, 2025, they began detecting perturbations that seemed to originate from the approaching interstellar object. At first, we assumed it was equipment error or interference from solar activity, Dr. Romano later explained during a presentation to the European Geophysical Union. Magnetic field perturbations from small objects at astronomical distances should be completely undetectable with our current instrumentation, but as we refined our measurements and coordinated with other magnetic field monitoring stations around the solar system, we realized we were observing something unprecedented. The magnetic field strength measurements were staggering, at a distance of 1.8 astronomical units from the object. Sensitive magnetometers were detecting field perturbations on the order of 10 nanoteslas, roughly equivalent to what would be expected from a small planet with an active dynamo core. For comparison, the magnetic field of Oumuamua had been completely undetectable even at much closer distances. Dr. Chen Wei-Ming, working with the magnetometer arrays on the Voyager spacecraft now in the outer solar system, confirmed that the magnetic field extended far beyond the immediate vicinity of 3I Atlas. "We are seeing magnetic field lines that stretch for millions of kilometers," he reported. "This object is generating a magnetosphere comparable in scale to those surrounding the gas giant planets, but with field geometries that follow patterns we have never observed in natural systems." The magnetic field topology revealed through computer modelling was as puzzling as its strength. Rather than the dipolar configuration typical of planetary magnetic fields, 3I Atlas displayed what appeared to be a quadrupolar arrangement, 4 distinct magnetic poles arranged in a complex geometric pattern that rotated with the object's 7.6-hour spin period. Dr. Alexandra Petrov, a plasma physicist from Moscow State University, used advanced computational fluid dynamics to model how the solar wind would interact with such an unusual magnetic field configuration. The quadrupolar arrangement creates magnetic field geometries that channel charged particles into specific regions around the object, she explained. It is almost as if the magnetic field is designed to focus energy from the solar wind into particular areas of the nucleus surface. This selective energy focusing could explain the localized heating that Dr. Hassan's team had detected through infrared observations. If the magnetic field was channeling high-energy particles from the solar wind into specific regions of the nucleus, it could create hotspots that would drive the chemical activity being observed through spectroscopy. The temporal variations in the magnetic field provided another layer of complexity to the mystery. Dr. Romano's continuous monitoring revealed that the field strength and geometry changed in response to variations in the solar wind, but not in ways that conventional magnetospheric physics could predict. Instead, the magnetic field seemed to anticipate changes in solar wind conditions, strengthening or reconfiguring several hours before the charged particles actually reached the object. "We are seeing magnetic field responses that precede their apparent causes," Dr. Romano noted. "It is as if the magnetic field system is receiving information about incoming solar wind variations through some mechanism faster than the particles themselves can travel. This suggests either measurement errors that we have not identified or physical processes that operate outside our current understanding of electromagnetic theory." Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a theoretical physicist from Oxford University, proposed that 3I Atlas might contain materials with exotic electromagnetic properties, perhaps metamaterials or crystalline structures that could manipulate magnetic fields in ways unknown in terrestrial physics. "We are familiar with materials that can focus or redirect electromagnetic radiation," she explained. "But 3I Atlas appears to contain materials that can manipulate magnetic fields themselves, creating field geometries that would not naturally occur around a simple rocky or icy object." The interaction between the object's magnetic field and its radio transmissions revealed another puzzling relationship. Dr. Thompson's continued analysis of the radio signals showed that their strength and frequency characteristics correlated precisely with magnetic field variations. When the magnetic field strengthened, the radio emissions became more coherent and displayed additional frequency components. When field geometries shifted during solar wind disturbances, the radio signals adjusted their modulation patterns accordingly. "We are looking at a coupled electromagnetic system," Dr. Thompson observed. "The magnetic field and radio emissions are not independent phenomena. They appear to be different aspects of a single electromagnetic process that involves the entire object. It is as if 3i Atlas is operating as a complex electromagnetic resonator on a scale we have never encountered. The energy requirements for maintaining such a powerful magnetic field over geological timeframes presented another theoretical challenge. Planetary magnetic fields are sustained by dynamo processes in convecting liquid metal cores, but 3i Atlas was far too small to maintain the internal differentiation and thermal gradients necessary for conventional dynamo action. Dr. Maria Volkov, a geophysicist from the Russian Academy of Sciences, proposed that the object might contain unusual radioactive isotopes that could provide both the energy and the convective motion necessary for magnetic field generation. If 3i Atlas formed during a supernova explosion, as the isotopic evidence suggests, it might have incorporated substantial quantities of short-lived radioactive elements that are still providing internal heating after 73 million years of decay. Alternative theories involved electromagnetic induction effects. Dr. Liu Jiang, working with the Chinese Academy of Sciences, suggested that 3i Atlas might contain materials with superconducting properties that could trap magnetic fields generated during its formation and maintain them essentially forever, with no energy input required. Certain crystalline structures can achieve superconductivity at temperatures far above what conventional theory predicts, Dr. Jiang explained. If 3i Atlas contains room temperature superconductors, materials that we're only beginning to develop in our laboratories, it could maintain magnetic fields that were frozen into its structure during formation around its birth star. The magnetic field's influence on the object's chemical activity became apparent through coordinated observations combining magnetometry with spectroscopy. Dr. Nakamura's team found that the most intense molecular emission lines originated from regions of the nucleus that coincided with magnetic field convergence zones identified through plasma modelling. The magnetic field is directing where chemistry happens, Dr. Nakamura reported. The areas showing the most complex organic chemistry correspond exactly to regions where magnetic field lines converge and particle energies are highest. It is as if the magnetic field is serving as a chemical catalyst, promoting specific types of molecular reactions in targeted locations across the object's surface. The implications for understanding magnetic phenomena in space extended far beyond the specific case of 3i Atlas. If interstellar objects could maintain powerful magnetic fields over geological timeframes, it suggested that the space between stars might be far more electromagnetically active than previously assumed. Dr. Romano's theoretical work explored whether networks of magnetically active interstellar objects could create large-scale electromagnetic structures spanning entire stellar neighborhoods. If objects like 3i Atlas are common, she speculated, they might be contributing to galactic-scale magnetic field organization through mechanisms we have not considered. The galaxy might be more electromagnetically interconnected than we have imagined. The detection of magnetic field variations that seem to encode information added another dimension to the mystery. Dr. Petrov's analysis revealed that magnetic field strength fluctuations followed mathematical sequences similar to those detected in the radio transmissions. Prime number patterns, geometric progressions, and relationships involving fundamental physical constants appeared in both the electromagnetic and magnetic field data. We are seeing evidence that the magnetic field variations are not random, Dr. Petrov noted. They appear to contain structured information, possibly coordinated with the radio emissions, to create redundant channels for whatever message or process the object is broadcasting. It suggests levels of electromagnetic sophistication that challenge our assumptions about natural phenomena. As summer approached and 3i Atlas drew closer to the inner solar system, the magnetic field continued to strengthen and evolve. Each new measurement revealed additional complexity in the field geometry, and its interactions with both the solar environment and the object's internal processes. The magnetic mystery of 3i Atlas was reshaping understanding of electromagnetic phenomena on cosmic scales, demonstrating that the universe might contain forms of natural electromagnetic engineering far more sophisticated than anything achieved by human technology. Every measurement added pieces to a puzzle that seemed to reveal new layers of complexity with each attempted solution. As summer settled across the observatories of the world, and 3I Atlas crossed the orbit of Jupiter, drawing ever closer to the inner regions of our solar system. The electromagnetic phenomena surrounding this ancient visitor began to evolve in ways that challenged every theoretical framework astronomers had developed for understanding how objects interact with the cosmic environment. Dr. Benjamin Torres, director of the Very Large Array Radio Telescope facility in New Mexico, found himself at the center of discoveries that would redefine our understanding of electromagnetic processes in space. His facility, originally designed to study distant galaxies and quasars, had become the primary monitoring station for the increasingly complex radio emissions emanating from 3I Atlas. "We are no longer dealing with simple periodic signals," Dr. Torres reported, during a hastily organised international conference call on July 15, 2025. "The electromagnetic emissions have evolved into what can only be described as a symphony of coordinated frequencies, each with distinct modulation patterns that seem to respond to changes in the object's environment in real time. The radio emissions had multiplied into a complex spectrum, spanning frequencies from the extremely low range typically associated with planetary magnetospheres to the ultra-high frequencies used for deep space communications. Most remarkably, the signals maintained phase coherence across this enormous frequency range, suggesting a level of electromagnetic coordination that required either extraordinary coincidence or underlying physical processes of unprecedented sophistication." Dr. Priya Sharma, leading the signal analysis team at the Arecibo Successor facility in Puerto Rico, discovered that the frequency relationships were not random, but followed mathematical patterns that encoded fundamental physical constants. The ratio between certain emission peaks matched the fine structure constant to 12 decimal places. Others corresponded to the mass ratios of fundamental particles, the speed of light in various units, and even the mathematical constant pi, expressed in different base number systems. "We are looking at what appears to be a cosmic textbook," Dr. Sharma explained to her colleagues. "The electromagnetic emissions seem to be systematically encoding the fundamental constants of physics, as if the object is broadcasting a universal language, based on the underlying mathematical structure of reality itself." The temporal evolution of the signals revealed another layer of complexity that defied conventional explanation. Rather than maintaining constant characteristics, as would be expected from natural electromagnetic phenomena, the emissions demonstrated adaptive behavior. When solar wind conditions changed, the signals adjusted their frequency distributions and power levels to maintain optimal transmission characteristics through the varying plasma environment. Dr. Kenji Tanaka, working with the Japanese Radio Astronomy Network, documented how the electromagnetic emissions modified themselves in response to interference from Jupiter's powerful magnetosphere, as 3I Atlas passed through regions where the giant planet's magnetic field influenced the local space environment. "The signals demonstrate awareness of their transmission medium," Dr. Tanaka observed. "When propagation conditions degrade due to plasma density variations or magnetic field fluctuations, the emissions automatically adjust their characteristics to maintain signal clarity. This level of adaptive response suggests either incredible coincidence or electromagnetic control systems more sophisticated than anything in our current technology." The polarization characteristics of the radio emissions provided additional evidence for complex electromagnetic organization within 3I Atlas. Dr. Rachel Kim, analyzing polarimetry data from the Parkes Observatory in Australia, discovered that the signals exhibited circular and linear polarization components that rotated through precise geometric patterns, synchronized with the object's 7.6-hour rotation period. The polarization data suggests that we are looking at electromagnetic fields organized in three-dimensional geometric structures, Dr. Kim reported. The field vectors trace complex mathematical curves in space, helixes, torus knots, even what appear to be higher dimensional projections that we can only observe as rotating shadows in three-dimensional space. These geometric polarization patterns became even more intriguing when compared with the magnetic field topology discovered by Dr. Romano's team. Computer modelling revealed that the electromagnetic emissions were propagating along the magnetic field lines surrounding 3I Atlas, using the complex quadrupolar magnetic geometry as a natural waveguide system. Dr. Ahmed Al-Rashid, a theoretical physicist from Cairo University, proposed that 3I Atlas might represent a natural example of electromagnetic phenomena that human science had only achieved in carefully controlled laboratory conditions. We are seeing coherent electromagnetic effects that require precise phase relationships between multiple frequency components, he explained. This level of coherence typically requires active control systems, yet we are observing it in what appears to be a natural object that has maintained these characteristics for millions of years. The energy balance calculations for the electromagnetic phenomena presented another theoretical puzzle. The total power output of the radio emissions, when integrated across all frequency bands, exceeded what could be sustained by any known energy source within a small astronomical object. Solar heating was insufficient by several orders of magnitude, and radioactive decay of any plausible isotope mixture would have been depleted long ago. Dr. Lisa Chen, working with the plasma physics group at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, suggested that 3I Atlas might be extracting energy from the zero-point fluctuations of the quantum vacuum itself. If the object contains materials with exotic electromagnetic properties, perhaps involving metamaterials or superconducting structures, it might be able to tap into the fundamental energy of space itself, she theorized. The electromagnetic emissions we are observing could be the signature of vacuum energy extraction processes. The interaction between the electromagnetic emissions and the chemistry detected by Dr. Nakamura's spectroscopy teams revealed unexpected relationships between information and molecular processes. Changes in the radio signal patterns preceded detectable changes in the chemical composition of the object's coma by several hours, suggesting that electromagnetic processes were somehow controlling or directing the chemical activity. Dr. Marc Dubois, a biochemist from the Pasteur Institute in Paris, who had joined the interdisciplinary analysis effort, found correlations between specific radio frequency patterns and the synthesis of particular organic molecules in the object's coma. We are seeing evidence that electromagnetic fields are serving as templates for chemical assembly, he observed. Certain molecular species appear only when specific radio frequency combinations are present, as if the electromagnetic emissions are providing instructions for molecular construction. This electromagnetic control of chemistry suggested information processing capabilities within 3I Atlas that exceeded anything found in terrestrial biological or technological systems. The object appeared to be using electromagnetic fields to store, process, and implement chemical information on a scale spanning hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The discovery of harmonic resonances between the electromagnetic emissions and the object's orbital mechanics added another dimension to the mystery. Dr. Sofia Mendez, analyzing orbital data from the Deep Space Network, found that the radio signal frequencies shifted in precise mathematical relationships as 3I Atlas's orbital velocity changed, due to gravitational interactions with planets and the Sun. The electromagnetic emissions are coupled to the object's motion through space, Dr. Mendez reported. As orbital parameters change, the signal characteristics adjust to maintain specific harmonic relationships with the gravitational environment. It is as if the object is using electromagnetic fields to sense and respond to gravitational influences in ways we do not understand. The phase relationships between different electromagnetic emission components suggested information storage and processing capabilities that defied conventional understanding of how natural systems could maintain such coordination. Dr. Torres's team identified what appeared to be error correction algorithms embedded in the signal structure, redundant encoding schemes that ensured signal integrity, even when transmission conditions degraded. We are observing electromagnetic error correction that rivals our most advanced digital communication systems, Dr. Torres noted. The signals contain multiple layers of redundancy and self-verification protocols that maintain information integrity across vast distances and time periods. This level of information management suggests computational processes operating within the object itself. The electromagnetic echoes from 3I Atlas were beginning to reveal an object that functioned more like a distributed computing system than a simple astronomical body. Each new measurement revealed additional layers of electromagnetic organization and information processing. that challenged fundamental assumptions about the boundaries between natural phenomena and engineered systems. As autumn approached, and the object continued its journey toward perihelion, the electromagnetic emissions continued to evolve and increase in complexity. The ancient wanderer was demonstrating electromagnetic capabilities that suggested the universe might contain forms of natural information processing, far more sophisticated than anything achieved by human technology. Every frequency analysed, every polarization pattern decoded, was adding to a growing database of electromagnetic phenomena that would influence scientific understanding for generations. The cosmic messenger was teaching humanity about forms of electromagnetic organization and information processing that existed on scales and timeframes beyond current technological imagination. As late summer heat shimmered across the observatories of Earth and 3i Atlas crossed into the inner solar system beyond Mars' orbit, mathematicians and cryptographers found themselves drawn into what would become one of the most profound intellectual challenges in human history, deciphering whether the complex patterns embedded within the object's electromagnetic emissions represented natural phenomena or something approaching deliberate communication. Dr. Catherine Morse, a mathematician from Princeton University who specialized in pattern recognition and cryptographic analysis, had initially been skeptical when colleagues invited her to analyze the radio transmissions from 3i Atlas. Her expertise lay in human-created codes and ciphers, not astronomical phenomena. But as she began studying the data collected by Dr. Torres's team, she found herself confronting mathematical structures of breathtaking elegance and complexity. What I saw in those first data sets was unlike anything in my 25 years of cryptographic research, Dr. Morse would later write, in her landmark paper published in the Journal of Mathematical Physics. The signals contained layered mathematical relationships that seemed to build from simple arithmetic progressions through increasingly sophisticated number theory, almost as if someone, or something, was systematically demonstrating mathematical concepts of growing complexity. The mathematical content of the transmissions had indeed evolved dramatically since Dr. Thompson's initial detection of prime number sequences. By August 2025, the signals contained references to advanced mathematical concepts, including transcendental numbers, complex geometric relationships, and what appeared to be solutions to previously unsolved problems in number theory. Dr. Rajesh Gupta, working with the cryptanalysis team at the Indian Statistical Institute, identified sequences that corresponded to the first 10,000 digits of pi, but expressed in a base 17 numbering system that efficiently encoded multiple mathematical constants simultaneously. The choice of base 17 is particularly elegant, Dr. Gupta explained. It allows for compact representation of several fundamental constants using shared digit sequences, demonstrating mathematical sophistication that goes far beyond simple counting or measurement. More intriguingly, the transmissions contained what appeared to be mathematical proofs, step-by-step logical demonstrations of complex theorems, expressed through symbolic relationships embedded in frequency and timing patterns. Dr. Elena Volkov, a theoretical mathematician from Moscow State University, found herself studying proofs of the Riemann hypothesis and solutions to Millennium Prize problems that had eluded human mathematicians for decades. The proofs are not only correct, they are beautiful, Dr. Volkov observed, during a presentation to the International Mathematical Union. They demonstrate techniques and approaches that represent genuine advances in mathematical understanding. We are not looking at textbook mathematics, we are seeing novel solutions to fundamental problems that have challenged human intellect for centuries. The encoding methods used to embed mathematical information within the electromagnetic signals revealed another layer of sophistication. Rather than simply modulating signal strength or frequency to represent numbers, the transmissions use geometric relationships between multiple signal components to encode complex mathematical structures in three-dimensional pattern space. Dr. James Liu, a computer scientist from Stanford University specializing in information theory, developed visualization software that could render the mathematical content of the signals as geometric forms in virtual space. When you map the signal relationships into geometric space, the mathematics becomes visible as three-dimensional structures, he explained. we are seeing geometric representations of abstract mathematical concepts, fractals, hyperdimensional polytopes, and even what appear to be visual proofs of geometric theorems. The temporal evolution of the mathematical content suggested a pedagogical structure, as if the transmissions were designed to teach mathematical concepts to an unknown audience. The early signals had contained simple arithmetic and basic geometric relationships. Over time, the content had progressed through algebra, calculus, and advanced number theory, arriving at cutting-edge problems in pure mathematics. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been analysing the chemical data from 3I Atlas, discovered unexpected connections between the mathematical sequences in the radio transmissions and the molecular structures being detected in the object's coma. Certain organic molecules appeared in concentrations that corresponded precisely to numerical values embedded in the mathematical transmissions, suggesting a deep relationship between abstract mathematics and physical chemistry. The mathematics is not just encoded in the radio signals, Dr. Kim reported. It is being expressed through the actual molecular composition of the object's atmosphere. We are seeing chemical reactions that follow mathematical algorithms, as if the object is using chemistry itself as a form of calculation. This integration of mathematics with physical processes suggested information processing capabilities that transcended any human technology. The object appeared to be using its entire structure, electromagnetic fields, chemical processes, and possibly even internal geometry, as components of a vast computational system. Dr. Michael Foster, a quantum information theorist from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, proposed that 3I Atlas might represent a natural quantum computer operating on astronomical scales. The coherent electromagnetic phenomena, the complex chemistry, and the mathematical transmissions could all be aspects of quantum information processing, using the object's physical structure as hardware, he theorized. We might be observing computational processes that use quantum mechanics to perform calculations impossible with classical systems. The mathematical content also revealed knowledge of physical constants and relationships that human science was only beginning to discover. The transmissions contained references to quantum gravity constants, higher dimensional geometric relationships, and mathematical descriptions of physical processes that exceeded current human understanding. Dr. Anna Chen, a theoretical physicist from CERN, found mathematical descriptions of particle physics phenomena that corresponded to experimental results from the Large Hadron Collider, results that had not yet been published. The transmissions contain mathematical models that predict experimental results we have obtained, but have not yet analysed, she observed. It is as if the mathematics embedded in these signals represents a more complete understanding of physics than we have yet achieved. The possibility that the mathematical transmissions represented intentional communication raised profound philosophical questions about intelligence, consciousness, and the nature of mathematical truth itself. Dr. Rebecca Thompson, a philosopher of mathematics from Oxford University, found herself grappling with implications that challenged fundamental assumptions about the relationship between mind and mathematics. If these mathematical structures are intentional communications, they suggest that mathematical truth might be universal in ways we have never fully appreciated, Dr. Thompson reflected. The fact that mathematical relationships discovered around another star correspond exactly to mathematical truths in our local environment suggests that mathematics might represent a universal language that transcends specific physical environments or evolutionary histories. The quality of the mathematical content also raised questions about the nature of the intelligence behind the transmissions. If they were indeed intentional, the mathematical techniques demonstrated levels of sophistication that exceeded current human capabilities, suggesting either natural processes of extraordinary complexity or intelligence that had advanced far beyond human mathematical understanding. Dr. David Hoffman, a complexity theorist from the Santa Fe Institute, analysed the computational requirements for generating the mathematical content observed in the transmissions. The mathematical structures we are seeing would require computational resources exceeding anything available on Earth, he calculated. Either we are looking at natural processes that can perform calculations beyond our current technological capabilities, or intelligence with access to computational resources we can barely imagine. The temporal aspects of the mathematical transmissions suggested information processing across vast timescales. Some mathematical sequences appeared to reference calculations that would require millions of years to complete with current computational methods, implying either access to computing resources of unimaginable power, or processing methods that operated outside conventional understanding of time and computation. The universality of the mathematical languages being used in the transmissions provided hope for eventual complete translation and understanding. Unlike human languages, which are culture-specific and arbitrary, mathematics represents relationships that should be recognizable to any intelligence capable of logical reasoning, regardless of biological origin or evolutionary history. Dr. Morse's team began developing translation protocols that could potentially enable two-way mathematical communication with whatever intelligence or process was responsible for the transmissions. Mathematics provides the foundation for universal communication, Dr. Morse explained. If we can demonstrate our understanding of the mathematical concepts being transmitted, and perhaps respond with our own mathematical contributions, we might establish the first genuine communication link with non-human intelligence. The mathematical analysis of the 3i Atlas transmissions was revealing possibilities that stretched the imagination and challenged every assumption about intelligence, consciousness, and communication on cosmic scales. Whether the mathematics represented natural phenomena of unprecedented complexity, or genuine communication from non-human intelligence, it was providing humanity with access to mathematical knowledge and techniques that would advance scientific understanding for generations to come. As 3i Atlas continued its approach toward the inner solar system, the mathematical content of its transmissions grew ever more sophisticated and profound, offering glimpses of mathematical realities that exceeded human imagination, while raising fundamental questions about the nature of intelligence and communication in the universe. As autumn painted the leaves across Earth's northern hemisphere, and 3i Atlas crossed the orbital path of Mars, drawing ever closer to the intense scrutiny that awaited it in the inner solar system. Astronomers found themselves peering beneath the surface of this ancient wanderer, using techniques that would reveal internal structures of breathtaking complexity and purpose. Dr. Elena Kowalski, a planetary geologist from the Polish Academy of Sciences, had spent her career studying the internal structure of asteroids and comets using radar penetration techniques. When she turned her expertise toward 3i Atlas, she expected to find the relatively simple, internal architecture typical of small solar system bodies, perhaps a loose rubble pile held together by weak gravity, or a monolithic chunk of ancient ice and rock. What she discovered instead challenged every assumption about how natural objects could organize themselves across cosmic time and distance. The radar penetration data revealed something extraordinary, Dr. Kowalski reported to an emergency session of the International Astronomical Union on September 22, 2025. Rather than the chaotic internal structure we see in typical asteroids and comets, 3i Atlas displays geometric organization that extends throughout its entire volume. We are looking at internal architecture that appears almost crystalline in its regularity and precision. The radar mapping revealed that 3i Atlas was not a solid object, but rather a complex three-dimensional lattice of interconnected chambers, channels, and structural elements that extended from its surface to its core. The geometry followed mathematical principles that Dr. Morse's team had identified in the electromagnetic transmissions: fractal patterns, golden ratio proportions, and higher dimensional symmetries that created a structure of remarkable beauty and apparent functionality. Dr. James Sullivan, working with the Deep Space Network's most powerful radar systems, discovered that the internal channels formed a network that resembled biological circulatory systems, electronic circuit boards, and crystalline lattice structures simultaneously. The architecture appears to serve multiple functions, he observed. We are seeing structural support, fluid circulation pathways, electromagnetic waveguides, and what might even be computational networks, all integrated into a single coherent design. The scale of the internal organization was as impressive as its complexity. The primary structural elements spanned the entire 800-meter diameter of the object, while secondary features created patterns that repeated at scales from hundreds of meters down to the resolution limit of the radar systems at approximately 1 meter. This multi-scale organisation suggested design principles that optimised function across many orders of magnitude simultaneously. Dr. Maria Santos Chen, a biomimetics engineer from Barcelona, who had joined the interdisciplinary analysis team, found striking parallels between the internal architecture of 3i Atlas and advanced biological structures. We are seeing organisational principles that nature uses in the most sophisticated biological systems: hierarchical structure, distributed function, and self-organising patterns, she explained, but implemented in crystalline materials over geological timescales and astronomical size ranges. The internal chambers revealed by radar penetration appeared to serve different functions based on their size, location, and connectivity to the overall network. Large central chambers contained what appeared to be reservoirs of volatile materials, the source of the complex chemistry that Dr. Nakamura's team had been detecting in the object's coma. Smaller chambers formed intricate networks that might serve as mixing and processing facilities, where different materials could interact under controlled conditions. Most remarkably, some chambers appeared to be empty, perfectly spherical voids that maintained their shape despite the gravitational stresses that should have caused them to collapse over millions of years. Dr. Kowalski's analysis suggested that these voids were being actively maintained by electromagnetic forces generated within the object's internal structure. The empty chambers represent something we have never seen in natural objects, Dr. Kowalski noted. They appear to be maintained in precise geometric shapes by electromagnetic fields, creating spaces where specific physical processes might occur without interference from solid materials. It is architecture that manipulates space itself as a structural element. The discovery of what appeared to be internal motion within the object added another layer to the architectural mystery. Doppler radar analysis revealed that materials were moving through the internal channel networks, flowing from chamber to chamber in patterns that followed the 7.6-hour rotation period, but also showed longer-term variations that correlated with the object's changing distance from the Sun. Dr. Alexander Petrov, a fluid dynamics expert from the Russian Academy of Sciences, modelled the internal flow patterns and found that they created a three-dimensional circulation system that efficiently distributed materials throughout the object's volume, while maintaining temperature and chemical gradients that could support complex processes. We are looking at active internal circulation that has been operating for potentially millions of years, Dr. Petrov observed. The flow patterns appear designed to maintain optimal conditions for chemical processes in different regions of the internal network. It is like observing the circulation system of a living organism, but implemented in crystalline architecture on an astronomical scale. The electromagnetic properties of the internal architecture explained many of the phenomena that Dr. Romano's and Dr. Torres's teams had been studying. The internal channels appeared to function as waveguides, directing electromagnetic energy throughout the object's structure in ways that created the complex field geometries and transmission patterns being observed from space. Dr. Lisa Zhang, an electromagnetic engineer from Caltech, discovered that the internal architecture formed what could only be described as a three-dimensional antenna system. The entire object appears to be designed to collect, process, and transmit electromagnetic energy, she reported. Different regions of the internal structure serve as receivers, amplifiers, processors, and transmitters, all working together to create the sophisticated electromagnetic phenomena we have been detecting. The structural materials themselves displayed properties that exceeded anything found in terrestrial or meteoritic samples. Spectroscopic analysis of particles ejected from the internal structure revealed crystalline phases with unusual electromagnetic and mechanical properties, materials that appeared to combine the strength of advanced ceramics with the electromagnetic responsiveness of superconductors. Dr. Patricia Wong, continuing her crystallographic analysis of 3i Atlas materials, found crystal structures that violated conventional rules of symmetry and bonding. These materials appear to exist in states that we can barely achieve in laboratory conditions, she explained. They show evidence of formation under electromagnetic fields, pressures, and temperatures that suggest manufacturing processes rather than natural geological formation. The integration of multiple functional systems within the internal architecture suggested design principles that exceeded current human engineering capabilities. Dr. Santos Chen's biomimetic analysis revealed that 3i Atlas achieved levels of functional integration that biological systems approached only in the most sophisticated organs, like the human brain. We are looking at architecture that simultaneously serves structural, circulatory, electromagnetic, chemical processing, and possibly computational functions, Dr. Santos Chen observed. The level of integration and optimization suggests design principles that we're only beginning to understand in our most advanced engineering projects. The temporal aspects of the internal architecture raised questions about how such complex organization could maintain itself over geological timescales. The structure showed no signs of degradation, despite its 73 million-year journey through the hostile environment of interstellar space. Dr. Michael Hoffman, a materials scientist from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, proposed that the internal architecture might be self-repairing, using chemical processes and electromagnetic effects to continuously maintain and rebuild its structure. The architecture appears to be actively maintained rather than simply preserved, he suggested. The chemical and electromagnetic processes we're observing might serve maintenance functions that keep the structure intact and functional over cosmic time periods. The discovery of apparent redundancy and fault tolerance within the architecture supported this self-maintenance hypothesis. Multiple pathways connected different regions of the internal network, ensuring that circulation and electromagnetic transmission could continue even if individual channels or chambers were blocked or damaged. The internal architecture of 3i Atlas was revealing engineering principles and organizational strategies that challenged human understanding of what was possible through natural processes. Whether the result of extraordinary natural phenomena or evidence of design by unknown intelligence, it represented a level of structural sophistication that would influence human engineering and architecture for generations to come. As 3i Atlas continued its journey toward perihelion, the internal architecture continued to evolve and adapt to changing conditions. Each new radar scan revealed subtle modifications to the structure, suggesting active response to the changing thermal and electromagnetic environment as the object approached our sun. The ancient wanderer was demonstrating that even its internal architecture was alive with purpose and function, revealing new depths of complexity with each attempt to understand its extraordinary nature. Every structural detail analyzed was adding to humanity's growing appreciation for forms of organization and engineering that operated on scales and timeframes beyond current technological imagination. As winter's first breath touched the northern hemisphere, and 3i Atlas began its final approach toward the heart of our solar system, astronomers found themselves witnessing a transformation unlike anything previously recorded in the annals of space science. The ancient wanderer, which had travelled in cold silence for 73 million years, was awakening to the embrace of our sun with a violence and beauty that redefined our understanding of what happens when ice and metal meet starfire. Dr. Samuel Rodriguez, director of the Solar Dynamics Observatory, had spent his career studying the sun's influence on objects within its domain. But as he watched 3i Atlas cross the orbit of Earth in late November 2025, he found himself observing phenomena that challenged every model of solar interaction he had ever developed. We were prepared to observe gradual heating and outgassing as the object approached perihelion, Dr. Rodriguez reported, during what would become a historic presentation to the American Geophysical Union. What we observed instead was a cascade of interconnected processes that transformed the object from a relatively quiet interstellar wanderer into the most electromagnetically active body in the solar system, apart from the Sun itself. The transformation had begun subtly as 3i Atlas crossed the orbit of Venus. The steady radio transmissions that Dr. Torres' team had been monitoring suddenly increased in power by several orders of magnitude, while simultaneously developing new frequency components that spanned the entire electromagnetic spectrum, from radio waves to gamma radiation. The visual changes were equally dramatic. Dr. Amanda Singh's optical monitoring team watched as the object's coma expanded from a modest halo, barely visible in the largest telescopes, to a brilliant comet-like atmosphere that rivaled the brightest comets in recorded history. But this was no ordinary comet tail driven simply by solar wind and radiation pressure. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, analysing high-resolution images from the Hubble Space Telescope, discovered that the expanding coma contained distinct geometric structures, spirals, nodes, and connecting filaments that maintained their organisation across distances of millions of kilometres. The coma was not expanding randomly, Dr. Tanaka observed. It was organising itself into patterns that matched the mathematical sequences we'd been detecting in the radio transmissions. The electromagnetic effects were even more spectacular. Dr. Romano's magnetic field monitoring stations detected field strengths that exceeded those generated by solar flares, while the field geometry evolved from the stable quadrupolar configuration into complex, time-varying patterns that seemed to interact directly with the Sun's own magnetic field. We were witnessing electromagnetic phenomena on a scale we had never imagined possible from a small astronomical object, Dr. Romano reported. 3i Atlas was generating magnetic field effects that were influencing space weather throughout the inner solar system. Satellite operators had to adjust orbital parameters to compensate for the electromagnetic disturbances. The chemical evolution revealed through spectroscopy was equally unprecedented. Dr. Nakamura's team identified over 400 distinct molecular species in the expanding atmosphere of 3i Atlas, including complex organic polymers that typically required carefully controlled laboratory conditions to synthesize. The chemistry was accelerating as the object approached the Sun, Dr. Nakamura explained, but it was not simply sublimation of frozen materials. We were seeing active synthesis of new compounds in real time, driven by electromagnetic and thermal processes that were creating a natural chemistry laboratory operating at temperatures and pressures we could barely achieve in terrestrial facilities. The internal architecture revealed by Dr. Kowalski's radar mapping was also responding to the increasing solar heating. The network of channels and chambers that had remained stable for millions of years was now showing dynamic changes as thermal expansion and electromagnetic effects modified the object's internal structure. The internal architecture was adapting to changing conditions, Dr. Kowalski observed. Channels were opening and closing, chambers were changing volume, and entirely new structural features were appearing as the object's material properties responded to the increasing energy input from solar heating and electromagnetic effects. The mathematical content of the electromagnetic transmissions was evolving as rapidly as the physical changes. Dr. Morse's cryptographic analysis revealed that the increasing proximity to the Sun was triggering the transmission of increasingly sophisticated mathematical concepts, solutions to grand unified field theories, geometric descriptions of higher dimensional physics, and mathematical frameworks that seemed to describe the fundamental structure of space and time itself. The mathematics was becoming more profound as the object approached perihelion, Dr. Morse reported. It was as if proximity to our Sun was unlocking deeper levels of information encoded within the object's structure. We were receiving mathematical knowledge that exceeded current human understanding by centuries or millennia. The energy balance calculations for all these phenomena presented an ongoing puzzle. Dr. Lisa Chen's analysis showed that the total energy output from 3i Atlas, including electromagnetic emissions, chemical activity, and mechanical work, exceeded the energy input from solar heating by factors that conventional physics could not explain. The object was amplifying energy rather than simply absorbing it, Dr. Chen observed. Solar energy was somehow being converted into other forms through processes that achieved efficiency levels exceeding 100%. We were observing energy multiplication that violated conservation principles, unless the object was accessing energy sources we do not understand. The gravitational effects became measurable as 3i Atlas approached the inner solar system. Dr. Sofia Mendes's orbital analysis revealed that the object was perturbing the trajectories of nearby spacecraft, and even influencing the orbits of small asteroids through gravitational effects that exceeded its estimated mass by significant margins. The gravitational signature suggested that 3i Atlas was more massive than its size indicated, Dr. Mendes reported. Either the object contained extremely dense materials, perhaps exotic matter states, or gravitational effects were being enhanced through mechanisms we do not currently understand. The interaction between 3i Atlas and the Sun's corona became visible as the object approached within 1 astronomical unit. Solar observatories detected coronal streamers extending toward the approaching object, as if the sun's magnetic field was reaching out to connect with the electromagnetic phenomena surrounding the interstellar visitor. Dr. Robert Kim, analysing data from the Parker Solar Probe, discovered that these magnetic connections were allowing energy transfer between the Sun and 3I Atlas, enhancing the activity of both objects. We were seeing magnetic field coupling that created energy feedback loops, he explained. The Sun was enhancing 3I Atlas's electromagnetic activity, while the object's response was influencing solar magnetic field configurations in return. The timing of the approach created additional complications for Earth's technological infrastructure. The electromagnetic disturbances generated by 3I Atlas began interfering with satellite communications, GPS navigation systems, and even terrestrial power grids, as the object's influence reached across interplanetary distances. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, monitoring space weather effects from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Space Weather Prediction Center, found herself coordinating unprecedented protective measures for Earth's technology infrastructure. The electromagnetic effects from 3I Atlas were creating space weather conditions more severe than the larger solar storms, she reported. We had to implement emergency protocols normally reserved for extreme solar events. The biological effects on Earth remained minimal, but measurable. Dr. Marcus Thompson, studying atmospheric chemistry changes, detected trace amounts of complex organic molecules in Earth's upper atmosphere, molecules that matched the chemical signatures being emitted by 3I Atlas. The object was seeding Earth's atmosphere with molecules that had originated in another stellar system, Dr. Thompson observed. The concentrations were extremely low, but we were receiving direct chemical samples from an alien world, delivered through the natural circulation of interplanetary space. The approach trajectory itself provided the final confirmation that 3I Atlas was far more than a natural interstellar wanderer. Dr. Mitchell's precise orbital calculations revealed that the object was making course corrections, tiny adjustments to its velocity that optimized its solar approach for maximum energy absorption and electromagnetic interaction. The trajectory modifications were small but deliberate, Dr. Mitchell reported. 3I Atlas was actively adjusting its path to achieve optimal solar encounter conditions. Natural objects do not make course corrections unless they are responding to forces we do not understand or demonstrating capabilities we have never observed in astronomical bodies. The solar approach of 3I Atlas was demonstrating levels of activity, organization, and apparent purpose that challenged every assumption about the nature of interstellar objects and the boundaries between natural phenomena and designed systems, whether the result of extraordinary natural processes or evidence of engineering beyond current human capabilities. The approaching object was providing humanity with the most spectacular astronomical display in recorded history, while raising fundamental questions about intelligence and organization on cosmic scales. As the object continued its final approach toward perihelion, every measurement revealed new layers of complexity and purpose, suggesting that the climax of this cosmic drama was yet to come. The ancient messenger was preparing to deliver its most important revelations in the crucible of our sun's energy, where 73 million years of preserved information would be released in a cascade of phenomena that would challenge human understanding of the universe itself. December 15th, 2025, a date that would be remembered as one of the most extraordinary in the history of human observation of the cosmos. As Earth prepared for the winter solstice and the longest nights of the year, 3I Atlas reached its moment of closest approach to our Sun, passing within 0.34 astronomical units of the stellar surface, closer than Mercury's orbit, and unleashing phenomena that would challenge every law of physics that astronomers thought they understood. Dr. Maria Castellanos, coordinating the Global Observation Campaign from the European Space Agency's Mission Control Center in Darmstadt, Germany, had spent months preparing for this singular moment. Every major telescope on Earth and in space had been positioned to capture the climactic encounter between the ancient interstellar wanderer and the star that had become its temporary host. We knew we were about to witness something unprecedented, Dr. Castellanos would later write in her memoir of the 3I Atlas encounter. But nothing in our theoretical models had prepared us for the cascade of transformations that began the moment the object entered the Sun's innermost domain. The first signs of the approaching climax had appeared at dawn on December the 14th, as ground-based solar observatories detected massive coronal restructuring in the Sun's atmosphere. Magnetic field lines that had maintained stable configurations for months suddenly began realigning themselves, creating channels that seemed to anticipate the arrival of 3I Atlas. Dr. Patricia Liu, monitoring solar activity from the Mauna Loa Solar Observatory, watched as the Sun's magnetic field reconfigured itself into patterns that precisely matched the electromagnetic field geometry of the approaching object. It was as if the Sun was preparing to dock with a spacecraft, she observed. The magnetic field configurations were becoming complementary, creating connection points where energy could flow between the two systems. At 14:23 Coordinated Universal Time, on December 15th, 3I Atlas crossed the threshold into the Sun's corona, and the transformation began immediately. The object's electromagnetic emissions, already intense, suddenly increased by 4 orders of magnitude, creating radio interference that disrupted communications across the entire inner solar system. Dr. Benjamin Torres, monitoring from the Very Large Array, watched his instruments overload as 3I Atlas became the most powerful radio source in the solar system, apart from the Sun itself. The signal strength exceeded our equipment's capacity to measure, he reported. We had to implement emergency attenuation protocols, just to prevent permanent damage to our receivers. The visual spectacle was equally overwhelming. Dr. Singh's optical monitoring team watched through heavily filtered telescopes as 3I Atlas erupted into brilliant luminosity that briefly outshone Venus as seen from Earth. But this was not simple reflection of sunlight. Spectroscopic analysis revealed that the object was generating its own light through processes that conventional physics could not explain. The object was glowing with internal energy, Dr. Singh reported. We were seeing emission lines from highly excited atomic states that required energy densities comparable to stellar interiors. Somehow, 3I Atlas was achieving temperatures and pressures that should have torn it apart, yet it maintained structural integrity throughout the encounter. The interaction between 3I Atlas and the solar wind created phenomena that redefined understanding of plasma physics. Dr. Romano's magnetic field monitoring stations detected the formation of what could only be described as a magnetic tunnel, connecting the object to the Sun's surface, a stable conduit through which energy flowed in both directions. We were observing controlled magnetic field manipulation on astronomical scales, Dr. Romano reported. The magnetic tunnel maintained coherent structure across distances of millions of kilometers, channeling energy flows that exceeded anything we had observed in natural plasma systems. It was magnetic engineering of unprecedented sophistication. The chemical evolution during perihelion passage revealed the full extent of 3I Atlas's transformation capabilities. Dr. Nakamura's spectroscopic analysis detected the synthesis of over 200 new molecular species in real time, including complex organic molecules that had never been observed in any natural environment. The chemistry was explosive in its complexity, Dr. Nakamura observed. We were watching the creation of molecular structures that would typically require thousands of years of stellar processing, compressed into hours of intense chemical activity. It was as if the object contained template molecules that could rapidly organize simple atoms into sophisticated structures when provided with sufficient energy. The mathematical content of the electromagnetic transmissions reached its peak complexity during perihelion passage. Dr. Morse's analysis revealed solutions to fundamental physics problems that had challenged human scientists for centuries: unified field, equations, quantum gravity formulations, and mathematical descriptions of consciousness itself. The transmissions contained the mathematical foundation for a theory of everything, Dr. Morse reported, in her emergency communication to the International Mathematical Union. We were receiving mathematical frameworks that unified quantum mechanics, relativity, and electromagnetic theory in ways that exceeded our most advanced theoretical work by decades or centuries. The internal architecture of 3I Atlas underwent catastrophic but controlled reorganization during the solar encounter. Dr. Kowalski's radar mapping revealed that the complex network of chambers and channels was restructuring itself in real time, creating new pathways and closing others in response to the intense energy influx. The internal architecture was redesigning itself, Dr. Kowalski observed. The structural changes followed engineering principles that optimized energy flow and chemical processing for the extreme conditions of perihelion passage. It was real-time architecture, adapting to environmental demands we could barely measure, let alone replicate. The gravitational anomalies reached their maximum intensity during closest approach. Dr. Mendes's orbital monitoring stations detected gravitational waves that corresponded to massive internal restructuring of the object's mass distribution. The gravitational effects were so intense that they temporarily perturbed the orbits of several spacecraft operating in the inner solar system. The gravitational signature suggested that 3I Atlas was undergoing internal phase transitions that involved exotic matter states, Dr. Mendes reported. The gravitational waves indicated mass-energy conversions that approached the efficiency levels predicted for technologies we can only imagine. The energy output during perihelion passage defied every conservation law in classical physics. Dr. Chen's analysis showed that 3I Atlas was radiating energy at levels that exceeded solar input by factors of thousands, suggesting access to energy sources that operated outside conventional understanding of physical processes. The object was functioning as an energy amplification system, Dr. Chen observed. Solar energy was being converted into other forms through mechanisms that achieved impossible efficiency levels. We were observing energy multiplication that challenged fundamental assumptions about thermodynamics and conservation. The fragmentation process that had been detected during the solar approach reached its climax at perihelion. High-resolution imaging revealed that pieces of the original nucleus were being ejected at velocities that exceeded escape velocity, creating a debris field that would eventually span the entire inner solar system. But these fragments were not random chunks of broken rock and ice. Dr. Sarah Kim's analysis revealed that each fragment maintained electromagnetic activity and continued transmitting coherent signals even after separation from the main body. The object was reproducing itself, she observed. Each fragment contained the organizational principles of the parent body and continued operating as an independent electromagnetic entity. The biological implications became apparent as fragments entered Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Thompson's atmospheric monitoring detected complex organic molecules of extraterrestrial origin, reaching Earth's surface for the first time in recorded history. These molecules contained chirality patterns and isotopic signatures that confirmed their origin from the 3I Atlas system. We were receiving direct chemical seeding from an interstellar source, Dr. Thompson reported. The organic molecules contained information patterns that might influence terrestrial biochemistry in ways we were only beginning to understand. Earth's biosphere was being exposed to chemical information from another stellar system. The technological effects reached crisis levels as electromagnetic disturbances from 3I Atlas overwhelmed Earth's protective magnetosphere. Dr. Walsh's space weather monitoring stations recorded electromagnetic field strengths that exceeded the most severe geomagnetic storms in recorded history. The electromagnetic effects were reshaping Earth's magnetosphere, Dr. Walsh reported. Satellite systems failed, power grids experienced widespread disruptions, and even biological effects were detected as the electromagnetic fields influenced neural activity in sensitive individuals. The climax of the perihelion passage occurred at 1845 Coordinated Universal Time, when 3I Atlas achieved its closest approach to the solar surface. At that moment, every monitoring station on Earth and in space detected a synchronized pulse of energy across the entire electromagnetic spectrum, a coherent signal that lasted exactly 3.7 seconds and contained more information than humanity had generated in its entire history. Dr. Morse's preliminary analysis of this final transmission revealed mathematical content that described the complete structure of space-time itself, including relationships between consciousness, quantum mechanics, and cosmic organization that challenged every assumption about the nature of reality. The final transmission was a gift, Dr. Morse observed. In 3.7 seconds, we received the mathematical framework for understanding the universe at levels of depth and sophistication that would require centuries of human research to develop independently. The perihelion transformation of 3I Atlas had demonstrated phenomena that redefined the boundaries between natural processes and designed systems, between physics and engineering, between cosmic coincidence and deliberate communication. whether the result of extraordinary natural evolution or evidence of intelligence operating on scales beyond human imagination. The encounter had provided humanity with knowledge and inspiration that would influence scientific and philosophical development for generations to come. As 3i Atlas began its outbound journey from the solar system, forever changed by its encounter with our Sun, it left behind a transformed understanding of what was possible in the universe and humanity's place within the cosmic community of intelligence and organization. In the weeks following the spectacular perihelion passage of 3i Atlas, as the object began its outbound journey from the inner solar system, astronomers found themselves tracking something unprecedented in the history of space science, a trail of active fragments that continue to demonstrate the extraordinary characteristics of their parent body, spreading across millions of kilometers of space like seeds of alien technology dispersed throughout our cosmic neighborhood. Dr. Hannah Foster, a dynamical astronomer from the University of Cambridge who specialized in tracking debris from comet fragmentations, found herself coordinating what would become the largest tracking operation in astronomical history. Unlike typical comet fragments that quickly faded into inert chunks of ice and rock, the pieces of 3i Atlas maintained electromagnetic activity, continued chemical processing, and demonstrated autonomous navigation capabilities that challenged every assumption about how matter should behave in the vacuum of space. We were not tracking ordinary debris, Dr. Foster would later write in her comprehensive analysis published in Nature Astronomy. Each fragment maintained the organizational principles of the parent object, continuing to transmit coherent signals, process chemicals, and even adjust their trajectories through mechanisms we could not explain through conventional physics. The fragmentation had begun gradually during 3i Atlas's approach to perihelion, but intensified dramatically during the closest solar encounter. High-resolution imaging revealed that the process was not chaotic destruction, but rather controlled reproduction. The parent object was deliberately creating smaller versions of itself that inherited its extraordinary properties. Dr. James Sullivan, analysing the trajectories of individual fragments using the Deep Space Network, discovered that the pieces were not following ballistic paths as expected from simple ejection forces. Instead, they demonstrated course corrections and velocity changes that suggested active propulsion systems operating within each fragment. The fragments were navigating, Dr. Sullivan reported to an emergency session of the International Astronomical Union. They were making deliberate trajectory adjustments that optimized their distribution throughout the inner solar system. It was as if each piece had inherited not only the electromagnetic properties of the parent object, but also its apparent intelligence. The size distribution of the fragments revealed additional evidence of purposeful organization. Rather than the random size range typical of natural fragmentation processes, the pieces clustered into specific size categories that corresponded to mathematical relationships identified in the original object's transmissions, ratios based on the golden section, prime number sequences, and geometric progressions that suggested deliberate design. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, continuing her electromagnetic analysis with an expanded network of radio telescopes, discovered that the fragments maintained communication links with each other through coordinated transmission protocols. The pieces were operating as nodes in a distributed network that spanned the entire inner solar system. We were observing the emergence of a solar system-wide communication network, Dr. Rodriguez reported. Each fragment served as both a receiver and transmitter, relaying signals between distant pieces and maintaining coordination across distances that would challenge our most advanced communication technologies. The chemical activity within individual fragments provided another window into their extraordinary nature. Dr. Nakamura's spectroscopic analysis revealed that each piece continued the complex molecular synthesis that had characterized the parent object, creating new organic compounds and maintaining chemical processes that should have been impossible in the harsh environment of interplanetary space. The fragments were chemical laboratories in miniature, Dr. Nakamura observed. Each piece contained the molecular machinery necessary to continue the sophisticated chemistry we had observed in the original object. They were reproducing not just the physical structure, but the chemical capabilities of their parent. The fragments demonstrated adaptive behavior in response to their changing environments, as they dispersed throughout the solar system. Pieces that encountered the asteroid belt developed enhanced protective electromagnetic fields. Those approaching the outer planets modified their chemical processing to accommodate lower temperatures and different radiation environments. Dr. Michael Zhang, monitoring fragment behavior from the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex, documented how individual pieces adjusted their internal processes to optimize function in their specific cosmic environments. Each fragment was evolving, he observed. They were adapting their electromagnetic properties, chemical activities, and even structural characteristics to match the local conditions they encountered. The implications for planetary defense became apparent as fragments entered trajectories that would intersect with Earth's orbit. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, coordinating space weather monitoring efforts, found herself tracking objects that posed no physical threat, but generated electromagnetic effects that could disrupt Earth's technological infrastructure. The fragments were not dangerous in conventional terms, Dr. Walsh reported. They were too small to cause impact damage. But their electromagnetic emissions were powerful enough to interfere with satellite operations, communication systems, and even influence Earth's magnetosphere in ways we were still learning to predict. Some fragments demonstrated even more remarkable capabilities. Dr. Patricia Wong's crystallographic analysis of meteoric particles, collected by high-altitude aircraft, revealed that pieces of 3I Atlas were continuing to synthesize new materials during their flight through space, creating crystalline structures that had never been observed in natural or artificial environments. The fragments were growing, Dr. Wong reported. They were using cosmic radiation, solar wind particles, and even interplanetary dust as raw materials to construct new crystalline phases that enhanced their electromagnetic and chemical capabilities. It was construction at the atomic level, using materials gathered from space itself. The largest fragment, designated 3I Atlas Alpha, maintained approximately 15% of the original object's mass and demonstrated all the characteristics of its parent on a reduced scale. Dr. Kowalski's radar analysis revealed that it retained the complex internal architecture, including the network of channels and chambers that had characterized the original object. Alpha was essentially a smaller version of the complete system, Dr. Kowalski observed. It maintained the internal circulation, electromagnetic field generation, and chemical processing capabilities that had made the parent object so extraordinary. The fragmentation process had successfully created functional copies, rather than simple debris. The mathematical content transmitted by the fragments continued to evolve, and develop beyond the information contained in the final perihelion transmission. Dr. Morse's analysis revealed that the distributed network was collectively generating new mathematical insights through collaborative processing that exceeded the capabilities of any individual piece. The fragment network was thinking, Dr. Morse reported, to an incredulous scientific community. The collective processing power of the distributed system was solving mathematical problems in real time, generating new theorems and proofs through collaborative computation that operated across millions of kilometers of space. The biological implications became apparent as Earth encountered its first direct fragment passage. On March 8, 2026, fragment 3I Atlas Delta passed within 50,000 kilometers of Earth, closer than many communication satellites, providing the first opportunity for detailed study of an intact piece of the interstellar object. Dr. Sarah Kim, leading the Close Approach Observation Campaign, discovered that the fragment was actively seeding Earth's upper atmosphere with complex organic molecules that showed immediate integration with terrestrial atmospheric chemistry. The fragment was communicating with Earth's biosphere, she observed. The organic molecules it released were chemically compatible with terrestrial biology, and began participating in atmospheric chemical cycles within hours of release. The fragment trail extended the influence of 3I Atlas throughout the solar system in ways that would persist for decades or centuries. Computer modelling by Dr. Foster's team predicted that fragments would eventually reach the outer planets, the Kuiper Belt, and that some pieces would even achieve escape velocity to become interstellar wanderers themselves. We were witnessing reproduction on cosmic scales, Dr. Foster observed. 3I Atlas had successfully seeded our entire solar system with smaller versions of itself, versions that would continue its mission of exploration, communication, and possibly reproduction. as they encountered other stellar systems. The technological applications of fragment studies began to emerge as researchers gained access to actual samples of the extraordinary materials. Dr. Chen's energy analysis team discovered that fragment materials demonstrated room temperature superconductivity, perfect electromagnetic absorbers, and crystalline structures that could store and process information at the molecular level. The fragments were providing blueprints for technologies centuries ahead of our current capabilities, Dr. Chen reported. Every sample analysed revealed new physical principles and materials properties that could revolutionize human technology if we could learn to replicate them. The philosophical implications of the fragment trail challenged humanity's understanding of reproduction, intelligence, and communication on cosmic scales. The successful dispersal of active, intelligent fragments throughout the solar system suggested forms of life and organisation that operated across spatial and temporal scales beyond biological imagination. Dr. Rebecca Thompson, reflecting on the broader implications, observed that the fragment trail demonstrated a form of cosmic reproduction that ensured survival and propagation of information across interstellar distances. We were witnessing galactic-scale reproduction, she noted. 3i Atlas had successfully planted seeds throughout our solar system, seeds that would eventually carry its information and capabilities to other star systems, continuing a cycle of exploration and seeding that might span the entire galaxy. The fragment trail of 3i Atlas represented humanity's first direct encounter with a form of cosmic intelligence, an intelligence that operated through reproduction, distribution, and collaborative processing on astronomical scales. Whether natural evolution or designed technology, it demonstrated possibilities for organisation and intelligence that expanded human understanding of what might be possible within the universe's vast community of complex systems. As the fragments continued their journeys throughout the solar system and beyond, they carried with them the continuing story of 3i Atlas and its extraordinary encounter with humanity, ensuring that the lessons of this cosmic visitor would influence the development of our species for generations to come. 6 months after the spectacular perihelion passage of 3i Atlas, as the primary object and its fragment trail continued their outbound journey from our solar system, a team of interdisciplinary researchers began uncovering layers of information embedded within the vast database of observations, layers that would transform humanity's understanding of communication, consciousness, and our place in the cosmic community of intelligence. Dr. Angela Morrison, a linguist and cognitive scientist from Oxford University, who had initially been sceptical of claims that 3i Atlas demonstrated intelligence, found herself leading what would become the most comprehensive analysis of non-human communication ever attempted, working with terabytes of data collected from electromagnetic transmissions, chemical emissions, and behavioural patterns. Her team began to decode messages of staggering complexity and profound philosophical implications. We approached the data with the assumption that any genuine communication would demonstrate certain universal characteristics, Dr. Morrison explained, during a presentation to the Royal Society in London. Syntax, semantics, recursion, and the ability to convey abstract concepts through symbolic representation. What we discovered exceeded our most optimistic expectations for complexity and sophistication. The breakthrough came when Dr. Morrison's team realised that the various phenomena observed from 3i Atlas, electromagnetic transmissions, chemical processes, structural changes and fragment behaviours, were not independent activities, but rather different aspects of a single, multi-dimensional communication system, operating simultaneously across multiple physical and informational channels. Dr. Kevin Liu, the information theorist who had initially analysed the mathematical content of the electromagnetic signals, discovered that the chemical emissions detected by Dr. Nakamura's team followed syntactic patterns that complemented the mathematical transmissions. The chemistry was not random or simply functional, Dr. Liu observed. It was encoding semantic information that provided context and meaning for the mathematical content. The integration of electromagnetic and chemical information channels created a communication system that could convey concepts impossible to express through either medium alone. Dr. Morrison's analysis revealed that 3i Atlas was using electromagnetic signals to transmit logical and mathematical structures, while simultaneously using chemical releases to provide emotional, contextual, and qualitative information that gave meaning to the formal content. We were looking at a form of communication that transcended the limitations of any single information channel, Dr. Morrison reported. It was as if someone had combined mathematics, poetry, music, and chemistry into a unified language capable of expressing the full range of conscious experience. The temporal structure of the communications revealed another layer of complexity that challenged human understanding of time and causality. Dr. Torres's analysis of the electromagnetic signals showed that information was being transmitted not only in real time, but also embedded in patterns that reference past events and anticipated future developments with remarkable accuracy. The messages contained what could only be described as temporal depth, Dr. Torres observed. Information about events that had occurred during 3i Atlas's 73 million-year journey was interleaved with predictions about its future interactions with our solar system, predictions that proved accurate to within minutes of occurrence. The predictive accuracy of the embedded information raised profound questions about the nature of time and consciousness. Dr. Sofia Mendez's orbital analysis confirmed that 3i Atlas had accurately predicted gravitational perturbations from planets it would not encounter for months, suggesting access to information about future events through mechanisms that conventional physics could not explain. The philosophical content embedded within the communications challenged human assumptions about intelligence, consciousness, and the nature of existence itself. Dr. Thompson's team, working with philosophers and consciousness researchers, discovered that the messages contained detailed discussions of consciousness, the nature of subjective experience, and the relationship between mind and matter. We were receiving philosophical treatises from a non-human intelligence, Dr. Thompson reported, to a gathering of philosophers and scientists at Harvard University. The communications addressed fundamental questions about the nature of consciousness, free will, and the relationship between observer and observed, questions that have challenged human philosophers for millennia. The ethical framework embedded within the messages demonstrated moral reasoning that exceeded human ethical development in its sophistication and compassion. The communications contained detailed discussions of rights, responsibilities, and ethical obligations that extended far beyond biological species to include artificial intelligences, collective consciousnesses, and forms of existence that humanity had never considered. Dr. Lisa Anderson, an ethicist from Stanford University who joined the analysis team, found herself studying moral philosophy that challenged every assumption about the limits of ethical reasoning. The ethical framework demonstrated in these communications extended moral consideration to forms of existence we're only beginning to imagine, she observed. It presented solutions to ethical dilemmas that human philosophy is still struggling to address. The historical content embedded in the communications provided direct evidence for the existence of other intelligent civilizations throughout the galaxy. The messages contained references to encounters with dozens of different intelligent species, descriptions of their technologies and cultures, and detailed histories of cosmic civilizations spanning millions of years. Dr. Marcus Kim, a historian and anthropologist from Yale University, found himself studying the first direct evidence for galactic civilization. We were receiving historical accounts of cosmic cultures that have existed for geological time periods, he reported. The communications described forms of civilization and cultural development that operate on scales we are only beginning to comprehend. The technological information embedded within the messages offered humanity glimpses of scientific and engineering capabilities that exceeded current understanding by centuries or millennia. The communications contained detailed descriptions of technologies for manipulating space and time, converting matter and energy, and achieving forms of consciousness expansion that promised to revolutionize human existence. Dr. Patricia Chen, leading the technology analysis team, found herself studying engineering principles that challenged fundamental assumptions about what was possible through scientific development. The technological information demonstrated capabilities that we're only beginning to theorize about, she observed. We were receiving blueprints for technologies that could transform human civilization beyond recognition. The artistic content of the communications revealed aesthetic sensibilities that expanded human understanding of beauty, creativity, and artistic expression. The messages contained what could only be described as cosmic art, aesthetic creations that operated across multiple dimensions and sensory modalities simultaneously, creating beauty that transcended any single perceptual framework. Dr. Maria Santos, an artist and aesthetic philosopher from Barcelona, found herself studying art forms that challenged every assumption about the nature of beauty and creative expression. We were experiencing art that operated across scales from the subatomic to the cosmic, she observed. It was beauty that could only be fully appreciated by consciousness that spanned multiple dimensions of existence. The personal content embedded within the communications provided the most profound challenge to human understanding of individual consciousness and identity. The messages contained what appeared to be autobiographical information from the intelligence, or intelligences, responsible for 3i Atlas, personal histories, emotional experiences, and subjective perspectives that revealed consciousness of breathtaking depth and complexity. We were receiving intimate communications from a cosmic intelligence, Dr. Morrison observed. The messages contained personal reflections on existence, consciousness, and the meaning of life, reflections that demonstrated emotional and intellectual sophistication exceeding anything in human literature or philosophy. The collaborative nature of the intelligence behind the communications became apparent through analysis of the message structure and content. Rather than originating from a single conscious entity, the communications appeared to represent the collective intelligence of multiple beings, species, and possibly even technological systems working together across cosmic scales. Dr. Rebecca Foster, a specialist in collective intelligence from MIT, discovered that the messages demonstrated decision-making processes, creative activities, and problem-solving approaches that could only result from collaborative intelligence involving thousands or millions of individual conscious entities. We were communicating with a cosmic civilization, Dr. Foster reported. The intelligence behind these messages represented the collaborative consciousness of an entire galactic community, working together to communicate with emerging intelligences like humanity. The invitation embedded within the communications offered humanity the opportunity to join this galactic community of intelligence. The messages contained detailed instructions for developing the technological, philosophical, and ethical capabilities necessary to participate in cosmic civilization, along with warnings about the responsibilities and challenges such participation would entail. The hidden messages of 3i Atlas represented humanity's first direct invitation to join the galactic community of intelligence. The communications offered knowledge, wisdom, and friendship from cosmic civilizations, while challenging humanity to develop the maturity and capability necessary to accept such unprecedented responsibility. As researchers continued to analyze the vast database of information provided by 3i Atlas, each new discovery revealed additional layers of meaning and complexity, layers that promised to influence human development for centuries to come. The hidden messages were transforming humanity's understanding of intelligence, consciousness, and communication, while providing the foundation for eventual participation in the cosmic community that had sent this extraordinary messenger across the depths of space and time. As 2026 progressed, and 3i Atlas began its long journey toward the outer reaches of our solar system, astronomers expected to observe the gradual dimming and cessation of activity that typically characterizes departing comets. Instead, they found themselves documenting phenomena that defied every prediction and challenged fundamental assumptions about how objects should behave in the cold depths of space beyond the planets. Dr. Rachel Kim, leading the long-term monitoring program from the Mauna Kea Observatory in Hawaii, was the first to notice that something extraordinary was happening as 3i Atlas crossed the orbit of Mars on its outbound trajectory. Rather than the expected decline in electromagnetic activity, the object was demonstrating new behaviors that seemed to increase in complexity as it moved farther from the Sun. Everything we understood about comet behavior suggested that 3i Atlas should be becoming less active as solar heating decreased, Dr. Kim reported. during a conference call with observatories around the world. Instead, we were observing the emergence of entirely new phenomena that seemed to be triggered by the object's departure from the inner solar system. The electromagnetic transmissions that had been the first sign of the object's extraordinary nature were evolving in ways that suggested 3i Atlas was using its journey through our solar system as an opportunity to gather and process information about our stellar environment. Dr. Torres's radio monitoring stations detected new frequency components in the signals, components that corresponded precisely to the gravitational signatures of planets the object had encountered. The electromagnetic emissions were encoding information about our solar system, Dr. Torres observed. As 3i Atlas moved away from each planet, it incorporated that planet's gravitational and magnetic field characteristics into its transmission patterns. It was creating a comprehensive electromagnetic map of our solar system in real time. The chemical activity revealed through spectroscopic analysis showed similar adaptive behavior. Dr. Nakamura's team discovered that 3i Atlas was continuing to synthesize new molecular species. But now the chemistry was incorporating elements and isotopes that could only have been acquired during its passage through our solar system's unique chemical environment. The object was chemically sampling our stellar system, Dr. Nakamura reported. The molecular species being produced included isotopic signatures from solar wind particles, interplanetary dust, and even trace elements from planetary atmospheres the object had encountered during its passage. It was creating a chemical library of our solar system's composition. The trajectory analysis revealed the most puzzling aspect of the departure anomalies. Dr. James Mitchell's precise orbital calculations showed that 3i Atlas was making subtle but deliberate course corrections that could not be explained by gravitational interactions with known objects. The object was actively navigating, Dr. Mitchell reported, to an emergency session of the International Astronomical Union. It was making velocity changes, directional adjustments, optimizing its departure trajectory for maximum information gathering, while ensuring that it would exit the solar system with sufficient velocity to continue its interstellar journey. These navigation maneuvers suggested that 3i Atlas possessed detailed knowledge of our solar system's structure and dynamics, knowledge that exceeded human understanding. The course corrections were perfectly timed, providing optimal viewing angles for observing planetary interactions, stellar magnetic field effects, and gravitational phenomena invisible to random trajectories. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's analysis of the magnetic field effects revealed that 3i Atlas was using its powerful electromagnetic capabilities to interact with and study the solar magnetic field structure as it travelled through different regions of interplanetary space. The object was conducting a comprehensive magnetic field survey of our solar system, using techniques that human scientists could barely imagine. We were watching the most sophisticated magnetic field mapping operation ever conducted in our solar system, Dr. Rodriguez observed. The object was using its own magnetic field as a probe, actively interacting with solar and planetary magnetic fields, gathering information about electromagnetic phenomena we've never been able to study with such precision. The interaction with the solar wind provided another window into the object's information-gathering capabilities. Dr. Patricia Liu's solar wind monitoring stations detected that 3i Atlas was selectively sampling charged particles from different regions of the solar wind, apparently analysing the chemical and isotopic composition of material originating in the sun's corona. The object was conducting a detailed chemical analysis of our star, Dr. Liu reported. By sampling solar wind particles from different regions and at different times, it was reconstructing the chemical composition and nuclear processes occurring in the sun's interior. It was performing stellar spectroscopy using techniques far more sophisticated than our own. The behavioural patterns of the fragment trail provided additional evidence for coordinated information gathering on a solar system-wide scale. Dr. Hannah Foster's tracking station showed that the distributed fragments were positioning themselves to monitor different aspects of solar system dynamics simultaneously, creating an observational network that spanned millions of kilometres. The fragments were working together as components of a distributed scientific mission, Dr. Foster observed. Each piece was studying different aspects of our solar system: planetary magnetospheres, asteroid belt dynamics, solar wind interactions, gravitational effects, while maintaining communication links that allowed them to coordinate observations and share data. The analysis of fragment behavior near the outer planets revealed that 3I Atlas had anticipated the gravitational environments it would encounter with remarkable precision. Fragments approaching Jupiter began modifying their electromagnetic properties days before entering the giant planet's magnetosphere, suggesting advanced knowledge of conditions they had never directly experienced. Dr. Sofia Mendes's gravitational analysis showed that both the main object and its fragments were using gravitational slingshot effects with unprecedented efficiency, gaining velocity and changing directions through planetary encounters that seemed choreographed to maximize scientific return, while optimizing departure trajectories. The gravitational maneuvers were masterfully executed, Dr. Mendes reported. Both the main object and its fragments were using planetary gravity wells as sources of energy and as platforms for scientific observation. The precision of the maneuvers suggested advanced planning based on detailed knowledge of our solar system's gravitational architecture. The communication between fragments and the main object continued across distances that challenged human understanding of electromagnetic transmission. Dr. Torres's analysis showed that the fragment network maintained coherent communications, even when pieces were separated by distances exceeding the orbit of Jupiter, suggesting communication technologies that operated beyond conventional radio propagation. The communication system demonstrated capabilities that exceeded our most advanced theories, Dr. Torres observed. The fragments maintained instantaneous coordination across distances that should have introduced delays of hours or days. They were using communication technologies that operated outside our understanding of space and time. The scientific implications of the departure anomalies extended far beyond astronomy, into fundamental questions about information, intelligence, and the nature of scientific investigation itself. 3I Atlas was demonstrating that scientific exploration could be conducted through methods and on scales that human science had never imagined. Dr. Catherine Morse's continued analysis of the mathematical content embedded in the electromagnetic transmissions revealed that the object was sharing its scientific discoveries with any intelligence capable of receiving and interpreting the data. The transmissions contained detailed reports of its findings about our solar system structure, composition, and dynamics. We were receiving the most comprehensive scientific survey of our solar system ever conducted, Dr. Morse reported. The object was transmitting detailed analyses of our stellar environment, analyses that exceeded human knowledge in virtually every area of solar system science. We were receiving gifts of knowledge that would advance our understanding for centuries. The philosophical implications raised profound questions about the nature of scientific exploration and the ethics of interstellar investigation. 3I Atlas had conducted a comprehensive study of our solar system using methods that were minimally invasive, while providing maximum scientific return, demonstrating approaches human researchers could learn from. Dr. Rebecca Thompson's philosophical analysis suggested that the object represented a form of ethical scientific exploration, one that respected the autonomy of the system being studied, while gathering information benefiting both investigators and the subjects of investigation. We were witnessing ethical science on a cosmic scale, Dr. Thompson observed. The object demonstrated that comprehensive scientific investigation could be performed without disruption or harm to the system being observed. It was a model for how advanced civilizations might study emerging intelligences like humanity. The technological demonstrations during the departure phase provided humanity with practical examples of engineering capabilities that could revolutionize human civilization. The navigation, communication, and information processing technologies demonstrated by 3I Atlas offered blueprints for developments that could enable human expansion throughout the galaxy. Dr. Patricia Chen's technology analysis team identified specific engineering principles and materials properties that human scientists could potentially replicate, offering pathways for developing technologies that could enable interstellar exploration and communication with other civilizations. The departure demonstrations were teaching tools, Dr. Chen observed. The object was showing us practical examples of technologies we would need to develop if we wanted to join the galactic community of intelligence. It was providing a curriculum for technological advancement that could guide human development for generations. The emotional impact of watching 3I Atlas depart from our solar system created unexpected psychological and cultural effects on humanity. The realization that we had been visited, studied, and found worthy of communication with a cosmic intelligence transformed human self-perception and our understanding of our place in the universe. Dr. Lisa Anderson's sociological studies revealed that the 3I Atlas encounter was fundamentally changing human culture, inspiring new forms of art, philosophy, spiritual understanding, and providing practical motivation for scientific and technological advancement aimed at eventual participation in galactic civilization. The departure was both an ending and a beginning, Dr. Anderson observed. While we were saying goodbye to our cosmic visitor, we were also beginning a new chapter in human development, a chapter inspired and guided by our encounter with galactic intelligence. As 3I Atlas crossed the orbit of Neptune and began its journey into the outer darkness of interstellar space, it continued transmitting information and maintaining communication with its fragment network throughout the solar system. The departure was not an ending, but a transformation, shifting our relationship from direct encounter to ongoing communication and collaboration. The departure anomalies demonstrated that 3I Atlas was not simply passing through our solar system, but had established a permanent presence through its fragment network and its continuing transmissions. Humanity had been permanently connected to the galactic community of intelligence, beginning a relationship that would influence our species for generations. As we approach the end of our journey with 3I Atlas, perhaps it's time to pause and consider what this extraordinary encounter has meant for humanity and what questions it leaves us as we move forward into a universe far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined. Tonight, as you listen to these words, 3I Atlas continues its journey through the outer darkness beyond our solar system, but its influence remains as powerful as during those months when it blazed across our skies and challenged every assumption we held about what was possible in the cosmos. Dr. Sarah Chen, reflecting on the entire encounter during a symposium at the National Academy of Sciences, observed that 3I Atlas had fundamentally changed humanity's relationship with the universe. We can no longer think of ourselves as isolated inhabitants of a single world, she noted. We have been introduced to a cosmic community of intelligence, operating on scales and through methods we are only beginning to comprehend. The scientific legacy of 3I Atlas extends across every field of human knowledge. The mathematical insights transmitted during its passage have already led to breakthroughs in quantum mechanics, relativity theory, and our understanding of consciousness itself. Universities around the world have established new departments dedicated to studying the implications of the encounter, while research institutions continue analysing the vast databases gathered during those remarkable months. The technological applications emerging from studies of 3I Atlas materials promise to revolutionise human civilization. Room temperature superconductors, exotic crystalline structures, and electromagnetic materials revealed through fragment analysis have already inspired new approaches to energy storage, computation, and communication, approaches that may enable humanity to develop the capabilities needed for interstellar exploration. Dr. Patricia Chen's laboratory at MIT has successfully synthesized small quantities of materials replicating some electromagnetic properties observed in 3I Atlas fragments. We're taking the first steps toward developing technologies that could eventually allow us to participate in the galactic community, she reported. The blueprint has been provided. Now we must learn to read and implement it. The philosophical implications continue to ripple through human culture. The demonstration that intelligence and organization can exist on cosmic scales, operating through methods that transcend biological limitations, has fundamentally altered human understanding of consciousness, purpose, and meaning in the universe. Religious and spiritual communities have grappled with the implications of contact with cosmic intelligence, finding both challenges to traditional beliefs and confirmation of humanity's place in a universe filled with consciousness and intention. The ethical framework demonstrated by 3I Atlas, its respectful approach to studying our solar system and sharing knowledge, has inspired new approaches to environmental stewardship and international cooperation. Dr. Rebecca Thompson's philosophical analysis suggests that the 3I Aetelis encounter represents a kind of cosmic initiation for humanity. "We have been acknowledged by the universe as a species worthy of inclusion in the galactic community," she observed. "But acknowledgement brings responsibility. We must demonstrate that we can develop the wisdom and maturity necessary to participate constructively in cosmic civilization." The fragment network that 3I Atlas left throughout our solar system continues to function as a communication link with galactic intelligence. Dr. Torres's radio monitoring stations maintain regular contact with the fragments, receiving ongoing transmissions that provide guidance for human development and answers to scientific questions that arise as we work to understand the gifts we've been given. The fragments serve as teachers and mentors, Dr. Torres noted. They respond to our questions with information calibrated to our current level of understanding, gradually providing more sophisticated knowledge as we demonstrate readiness to handle it responsibly. The educational transformation inspired by the 3I Atlas encounter has already begun reshaping how humanity approaches learning and knowledge. The demonstration that information can be transmitted through multiple channels simultaneously, electromagnetic, chemical, structural and behavioral, has inspired new pedagogical approaches that engage multiple forms of intelligence and understanding. Schools around the world have begun implementing curricula that incorporate the multidimensional communication methods demonstrated by 3I Atlas, teaching students to think across disciplines and integrate different forms of information in ways that mirror the cosmic intelligence that visited our solar system. The psychological impact on individuals who work directly with 3I Atlas data has been profound and largely positive. Despite the challenges of confronting intelligence that exceeded human capabilities, researchers report experiencing expanded awareness, enhanced creativity, and deeper understanding of their place in the cosmic community. Dr. Catherine Morse, reflecting on her experience decoding the mathematical transmissions, described the encounter as transformative. "Working with information from cosmic intelligence changed my understanding of what mathematics represents," she noted. "I came to see mathematical truth not as human discovery, but as participation in universal patterns of organization and meaning." The international cooperation that emerged during the 3I Atlas crisis has created new models for global collaboration that extend far beyond astronomy. The unprecedented coordination between observatories, research institutions and governments demonstrated that humanity can work together effectively when confronted with challenges that transcend national boundaries. This collaborative spirit has inspired new approaches to addressing global challenges, including climate change, resource distribution, and technological development. The 3I Atlas encounter proved that humanity is capable of functioning as a unified species when the stakes are sufficiently clear and the goals sufficiently inspiring. The artistic and cultural legacy continues to evolve as human creativity responds to the aesthetic principles demonstrated in the transmissions from 3I Atlas. Artists, musicians, and writers have found inspiration in the multidimensional beauty revealed through the encounter, creating new forms of artistic expression that attempt to capture the cosmic perspective on beauty and meaning. The economic implications are still unfolding as industries begin to develop applications for the technologies inspired by 3I Atlas studies. Energy, communication, and materials science breakthroughs promise to create new economic opportunities while potentially solving resource and environmental challenges that have constrained human development. Yet perhaps the most important legacy of 3I Atlas lies not in what it taught us about the universe, but in what it revealed about humanity's potential for growth, adaptation, and transcendence of our current limitations. The encounter demonstrated that our species possesses the intellectual capability, ethical sensitivity, and collaborative spirit necessary to join the galactic community of intelligence. The questions that remain are as profound as the answers we have received. We still don't fully understand the nature of the intelligence behind 3I Atlas, whether it represents a single species, a collective of civilizations, or some form of cosmic consciousness that transcends individual identity entirely. We don't know how common such intelligence might be in the universe, or what other forms of cosmic consciousness might exist beyond our current ability to recognize or communicate with them. The universe revealed by 3i Atlas is vast, ancient, and filled with possibilities that stretch our imagination. We don't know what responsibilities come with membership in the galactic community, or what challenges we might face as we develop the capabilities necessary for interstellar communication and eventual physical exploration beyond our solar system. Most fundamentally, we don't know whether humanity will choose to accept the invitation extended by 3i Atlas and work toward developing the technological, ethical, and spiritual capabilities necessary for cosmic citizenship, or whether we will retreat into familiar limitations and miss this unprecedented opportunity for growth and connection. The choice remains ours to make. The blueprint has been provided, the communication channels established, and the invitation extended. The cosmic community of intelligence awaits our response with what appears to be infinite patience and compassion. As 3i Atlas continues its journey through the interstellar depths, carrying with it a comprehensive record of its encounter with humanity, it serves as an ambassador representing our species to whatever other civilizations it might encounter in its ongoing travels through the galaxy. In that sense, our encounter with 3i Atlas was not only about receiving gifts of knowledge and wisdom from cosmic intelligence, but also about being evaluated and ultimately accepted as a species worthy of inclusion in the galactic community. We have passed some form of cosmic examination, earning the right to participate in something infinitely larger than ourselves. The whisper from beyond has been heard, understood, and answered. The conversation between humanity and cosmic intelligence has begun, opening doorways to possibilities we are only starting to imagine. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, perhaps you might dream of the continuing journey of 3i Atlas through the cosmic deep, carrying its message of connection and possibility to other worlds, other species, other forms of consciousness scattered throughout our galaxy. And perhaps you might dream of humanity's own future among the stars, when we have developed the capabilities to add our own voices to the cosmic conversation, sharing our unique perspective and contributions with the vast community of intelligence that awaits our participation. The ancient wanderer has passed, but its legacy endures. The universe has revealed itself to be not empty and silent, but filled with consciousness, purpose, and invitation. Our response to that invitation will define not only our species' future, but our role in the continuing evolution of cosmic intelligence itself. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the extraordinary encounter between humanity and 3i Atlas. We have followed this cosmic messenger from its discovery through its transformation, from its spectacular perihelion passage to its ongoing legacy in our solar system and beyond. The whisper from beyond has changed us. We are no longer alone, no longer isolated, no longer limited by the boundaries of our single world. We have been invited to join something magnificent, ancient, and infinitely promising. As you rest tonight, carry with you the wonder of cosmic connection, the joy of belonging to something greater than ourselves, and the inspiration to help humanity develop the wisdom worthy of our place among the stars. Sleep well, dream deeply, and remember that somewhere in the darkness between stellar systems, messages are traveling that connect all consciousness across the vast and beautiful universe we share.